Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence with psychiatrist Bernard David Beitman, MD. Dr. Beitman is the founder of the Coincidence Project. The project encourages people like you to tell each other coincidence stories. To learn more about Dr. Beitman's work, put Connecting with Coincidence in your web browser. You'll find his book, his Psychology Today blog, and the interviews from this podcast. And now your host, Bernard Beitman, MD.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. This is CC with BB 2.0. If you wish to support us here at Connecting with Coincidence, please like and subscribe. Increasing subscriber numbers increases our reach. And those of you who watch us on YouTube, write us one of your coincidence stories in the comments section. We will reply. I went to the gym the other day, and one of the people behind the desk has found me fun to talk with, and I think she's fun to talk with. So we were getting into some stuff, and then one day I asked her if she noticed coincidences. She said, "There are no coincidences. The number 13 turns up when I need a message from my father who died." They happen all the time, but a lot of people don't notice them. They can help bring compassion and understanding to relationships. I thought to myself, that's my message. That's my message. So I gulped. A coincidence prophet at the gym. I pushed these words out of my chest. Right on. Thank you, she said. Well, our guest today is Buddy Helm, and Buddy has played drums with old notables like Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Tim Buckley, Mike Bloomfield, Big Joe Turner, and many others. He wrote the Star Wars syndicated comic strips for George Lucas. He developed a stress-reducing HelmTone protocols and taught in Cathy Javier's ethnic gift shop called Seasons in Santa Monica, California. He toured the US, Australia, and Japan. His books include Drumming the Spirit to Life, Let the Goddess Dance, Way of the Drum, History of the Groove, and he was a drum therapist on the staff at Bridges to Recovery for 6 years. Buddy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doc. It's nice to be here.
It's great to have you. And, you know, we were talking a little bit before we got on to this recording about your history and how you and I have some overlap in the Bay Area and other places musically. It's really been fun to compare those notes. But there's a story about Tim Buckley that I'd like you to tell, because it's such a illustrative thing, such an illustrious story about how a coincidence can form a synchronicity that meaningfully changed your life.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Quite a bit. So tell us the story of Tim Buckley, the boss, and that denim vat jacket.
Yeah, well, I was a very successful drummer in the 70s, and I worked with Tim Buckley and a lot of other people. But with Tim, we actually played in Max's Kansas City in New York quite a bit. And there was this new kid named Bruce, and he hung down front, you know, didn't pay much attention to him. So years passed. Tim Buckley was killed in 75, and it's hit me very hard because I'd lost my father when I was 4. And so I was struggling with depression. I was avoiding the drugs and the alcohol, but it was slowing me down quite a bit. So, and I continued to work in the music business until I said, okay, enough's enough. I put on a suit and a tie, and I became Russell Buddy Helm. And I worked in Lorimar, Dallas, Falcon Crest, Knots Landing. Those were my shows. And I worked at the Playboy Channel, and I worked for George Lucas and a lot of other people. So I was clawing my way up through the corporate entertainment world, and I got a call from Tim Buckley's widow, and it had been over 10 years. And she said they were not getting any royalties from Tim's recordings. And since I was no longer a drummer, which hurt quite a bit, she said, "In your suit now, can you negotiate a deal with Warner Brothers?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I can," because I knew the vice president of film at Warner's, Lucy Fisher, and I'd work with her partner, Peter Ivers, who was also killed in the underground world of Los Angeles music. He had New Wave Theater on and on. So I said, "Yeah, I understand your problem, and I can do that." So I girded my loins and put on my Barney's raw white silk suit, and I drove over to Burbank and in my 66 Mercury Park Lane and parked in the visitors parking space. And I walked down the hallway to the board meeting, and I could see like 7 music lawyers from Warner Brothers, like sharks, circling. They didn't want to share me. They were going to tear me apart and just leave me for dead. And I'm walking in the room, the door's open, and the sound mixing room, and Bruce Springsteen is in the sound room. By now, of course, he's the boss, and the engineer. And he looks at me, he goes, "Max's Kansas City, New York, 1973. You were Tim Buckley's drummer." And I was like, I was in the middle of having a huge psychic break, because am I a film executive or am I a drummer? And back then, if you were a drummer, you were not welcome in the film business.
How come?
Because you were undependable, you were a flake, you were a freak, This was before drumming as a therapeutic event. It was actually the precursor for what we have now. So he looks at me, he says, "Wait a minute, you're here for that meeting with the lawyers," because he was a big Tim Buckley fan.
And I just say it back, he was sitting in the audience while you were drumming for Tim Buckley.
Exactly.
Little Bruce in the front row.
Yeah, that was upstairs at Max's Kansas City, which held about 75 people. It was a tiny.
And did you kind of recognize him? Or
how'd
you know he was there?
They told me later that he was
told you
there.
later. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I didn't know.
It makes a good story that, okay, I got it. He told you later, but you found out he was there, but he was there watching you drum for Buckley. So that's okay.
And so we were on tour with Tim, and we were in Houston, and the interviewer said, "What about this new guy, Bruce Springsteen?" And Tim Buckley said, "You mean the guy that's trying to imitate me?" So that was all that, So here we are. This is in the early 80s. And I'm standing in sort of shock, psychic disorientation. Am I a drummer or am I a suit? He hands me his denim jacket, the cutoff jacket that the boss was always wearing. It's sitting on the back of his chair. And he hands it to me. And it's funky, And he said, "Go get him." So I'm walking down the hallway, and it's like a Roman Polanski movie. The hall's narrowing, and I'm having tunnel vision, and I don't know who I'm supposed to be. And I get to the door of the boardroom, and the lawyers are just sneering at me. And I put his jacket on over my Barney's raw white silk suit. And they're going, "Ah," groans from these guys. And I walk in, and now, for the first time, I am both people. I'm the executive. I'm the drummer. That really never happened before for me. They were separate, schizophrenic identities, different names. I walked around in the front of the boardroom, and I said, "This belongs to?" And they go, "Yeah, we know it belongs to." And I said, "Okay, without this guy, Tim Buckley, who you don't even think's important, you wouldn't have the boss. You wouldn't have Chrissie Hynde. There's a lot of people he influenced. And you owe." They said, "It's not enough money for you to worry about." And I said, "Nope, it's not about the money. You owe the widow and you owe the orphan. You owe me, but we're not going to go there, okay? You need to take care of these people. You got the money." So I, complained, and we kind of hashed it out a little bit. We got up something. And then I received the bootleg recordings that we had done in 1973 and 74.
You and Tim.
Yeah, with the band. He had the
band.
Tim Buckley band. And we'd done the Nebworth UK Festival with the Allman Brothers, who were my old pals, and Van Morrison and the Doobie Brothers, you know.
Oh,
and
wow.
You know, and it was a tremendous tour, you know. It was like top drawer. And I'm listening to myself playing the drums on these recordings. And I feel both terrible, melancholy, and euphoric because it's brilliant. I'm on fire. I'm like 22 years old and I'm just playing my head off, you know? So I'm listening to this stuff and back in my office at Lorimar. And I said, I can't do this. I can't sit in this office. So the Lee Rich was the president. He sent down his secretary, you know, Latin woman. She says, there's rumor now that you're leaving and you're going to get your vice president office next week. And why are you leaving? I said, it's got something to do with me being a drummer. And I had not played the drums in 10 years. She said, drummer? What kind of drummer? I said, well, whatever you need. She said, conguero? Because she was a Latin woman. I said, si, vivo in Miami. She said, oh, we must dance. And I went, I appreciate that, you know, but I got to get out of here. So that was this huge turning point for me. And that's when I met Cathy. And she had this store, ethnic gift store on Montana Avenue in Santa Monica. And I didn't know what I was going to do. So she said, if you don't know what to do, try being of service. Because that was like an alien concept to me. So she said, you want to go to Bali? I went, sure. So we went to Bali and we're looking for, you know, ethnic pieces for her little store on Montana Avenue. It's called Seasons. And she's negotiating best price, best Cathy price. And I see a drum that's under the counter. I pull it out and I give her the ancient bargaining rhythm. It goes all the way back to the Crusades. And he flips and he goes, you are a drummer. And I went, no, I don't do that anymore. Okay. Dead rock stars, corrupt record companies, you know, thieving managers. No. And it was all this bitterness came out. And he gives me the namaste. It's a little Indonesian guy. He goes, you are a drummer now. I'm not going to buy it. I am not going there. And he says, then play now. He backed me into a corner. Psychologically, I had no alternative. We took 2 drums outside of his little shop in the jungle in Bali. And he called up a kid who had never, you know, couldn't speak English. And both of us sat down on the drums. And I said, show me what you got, man. So he takes off on Indonesian rhythms that are like so sophisticated. I couldn't figure them out. I said, no, that's too much work. I'm not going to go there. I'll show you what we do down south. I'm going to give you the downbeat and you fill it in. And he got it. Couldn't speak English, but he understood rhythm. So this moment for me was, you know, the result of all this suffering and confusion and distraction. And Bruce was a part of it, and Tim's widow. They were all contributing this energy to get me to do what I've been doing now for the last 34 years, which is showing people how to heal using rhythm and how to connect to the manifesting energy that's in the rhythm. All cultures have used it. In America, we mistrusted it because it was so powerful. We didn't understand it. But this guy that was running this shop in Bali, he goes back into the shop and he comes out with a wooden carved monkey mask with great, you know, reverence. He says his grandfather had carved this wooden monkey mask. And he puts it on and he starts to dance. So this kid and I, we're playing and just grooving pretty much like this. And this guy starts to move in those graceful Balinese, you know, it's like just serpentine, just incredibly beautiful. I said, Cathy, get a picture. She says, I am. So I'm watching him dance and I'm suddenly realize that I feel really good. I haven't felt this good in a long time. And I'm looking up at the sky, and the sky is blue, and the leaves are green, vivid, and the sharp edges on everything. It was like the universe had taken the focus knob on my life and just turned it and brought everything into focus. And I realized this is what I was supposed to be doing.
I feel good. I feel good.
So good.
I feel so good. I think I want to feel this way some more.
And so we took, what Cathy had purchased there and the drums and everything, and we drove around Bali. We'd got a Jeep, and this was 34 years ago. Yeah, like 97. So it was still old Bali. And we went to different places.
Is this the famous Cathy?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
so come on here. Let everybody see who he's talking about. Hey, thanks. So you're the one who said, "Hey, you want to go to Bali?"
Yeah.
Well, that's what we call. Who wouldn't? Yeah. Well, some people wouldn't. This is about synchronicity that we got here. So that was a transformative invitation you did with Buddy. You helped him transform into who he is now. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we went to other little villages, Bug and all these, and they knew us. They knew what we were about. The word had spread, and they came down and they said, Patina, Patina. And I went, what do you mean, Patina? They said, Patina, Patina. And they had drums that had been worn smooth with the robes of the sacred drummers for, maybe 100 years. And we brought these drums back, and we won't sell them because they're just full of magic. And
well, can you play them?
No.
No.
Yeah, the heads are actually cobra and snake skin heads.
Well, let's keep it out there anyway, because what we want to do here, after I do the little summary again, is we're looking at synchronicity on the show, and the two focal points I hear are second, Cathy, hey, want to go to Bali? But that gets to having to run into the guy at with the drums, and for that guy to say, hey, buddy, you can play the drums. That's your thing. And he said things to you that's meant put the past behind you. Be right now. Be the drummer you are right now. Forget about what's past. And then he brings the kid in, and you two are talking to each other, and he's too fast for you, so he's got to go with where you are, and you start moving it in a monkey face, and he starts dancing. But the critical steps there are Cathy, Bali walking into that shop, and then doing what you did was the old time negotiating drum beat. Do that for us.
This is a 6-beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, as it slows, it's traditional African, but it's also Irish. Every culture uses it, Far East. But when you slow it down, it becomes the blues. Baby, please don't go.
Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go.
So I realized that the rhythms of humans are the same all over the world when you simplify them to these real basic formula rhythms. And in America, it's a 4-beat and a 3-beat, and pretty much everywhere else. So I decided I could teach that. So when we came back from Bali, we had a few drums, but not a lot. And a woman comes in and she says, I want a drum, but I don't want to be a drummer. And I went, okay. I said, well, what do you want to do with it? She says, I want to drum with my granddaughter and some of my grandmother friends. This is before drumming phenomenon. This is like over 30 years ago. I said, well, I can teach you that. It's a low tone in the middle of whatever drum you have, and it's a high note out at the edge. And just set it up as a steady groove. and don't speed up because that'll create anxiety, which is fine if you want to generate, an excuse for the police to shut you down. If you want to go for the healing and the meditation and the deeper trance and the connection to the universal life force, you got to stay steady and relaxed. Now, I learned that from Big Joe Turner and Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Greg Allman and Dwayne Allman and all the great guys in the South who knew this secret of, like, when you're playing, you don't want to speed up because you're going to lose them. You're going to lose the people who need to dance. You need to make them feel safe. So that came back to me when we started to offer this. And I talked to John Densmore, the drummer for the Doors. He said, your girlfriend's got that shop, that ethnic shop. Can she get really good djembes from Africa? And I went, I don't know. What's a good djembe? He said, I don't know. So I asked Cathy. She said, yeah, Jumoke is in town from Ghana. Come down with me to the gift show. And I met Jumoke. She's tall, statuesque, beautiful African woman, good businesswoman. And I said, do you have good djembes? She said, yes, my family makes them.
Ah,
You should talk about
Oh, right. Yeah, we're going to get to that. The Bronco.
I'll go. What she wants that. Well, we'll do that too. And we'll get to. She likes the Bronco. We'll do the Bronco. But this is. We're gonna. Let's take a pause for a commercial break. Which is do the Bronco. That's what we'll do, because I want to get back to where you're going, which is the be calm rhythm. Make sure that you're not losing the people. Don't get to the anxiety that if you go too fast can bring on, and how that will melt us into how drumming and synchronicity go together, how you can increase the flow in your life with a drum beat that gets you into the flow.
Yeah. It has to do somehow with alignment.
With alignment. Let's leave it with that word and do an alignment with a Bronco. And then we'll get to that. Unless Cathy wants to tell the Bronco story because she likes it.
Well, okay, we're fast and reverse, and I'm leaving the film business, and I'm in a state of shock. This is before we went to Bali, and I really hadn't met Cathy.
Oh, I didn't realize it was. Now that links the two stories. The Bronco links the two stories.
Yeah,
because you can't get away from her is what happened. That's what it was.
Well, through friends, I met her at her birthday party, and so I come into her shop and I meet her here. And I'm telling her about what I did when I tried to break out of the film business, about a year earlier. I looked in the classified ads in LA Times, and there was a drive-away car to take it back to Manhattan in New York. And I called up, and they said, yeah, take the Bronco, and we'll meet you in New York. So, and it was Brenda Vaccaro, actress.
Yeah.
And she was going to do The Odd Couple.
In New York,
okay. And her boyfriend was from France, Guy, and he was pretty charming, young, and he wanted a car in Manhattan. And I said, you ever had a car in Manhattan? He goes, no. And I said, well, you don't want to do that. You're going to pay more money for storing your car than your apartment. It's just ridiculous. You don't want to do that. He said, no, I really want to have a car in Manhattan. I went, okay, tell you what. I'm going to take your car, and I'm going to drive it across the United States, and I'm going to stop in Mount Vernon, Illinois, because I finally located one person who actually knew my father. And he's, the founding father of Mount Vernon, Illinois. And so, because my dad was in the intelligence business, and he naval intelligence, OSS, World War II, and it was a big secret. I loved him, but I didn't know him. So I get in the car and I drive back to Mount Vernon.
You were 4 when he died, just to be clear about that.
Yeah, I was 4 years old, and we were in Pennsylvania. And when he died, everything disappeared. The big house in the country and everything. And Mom told me later, the men in black, they came around and they said, what did you know? What did he tell you? And she just said, I know nothing. So I'm driving back to Illinois to meet this only person I've ever met, hopefully, that knew my father. I get out of the Bronco, middle of the night. It's funky. I'm sleeping in the car all the way across. He goes, where'd you get so tall? Your dad wasn't, 5'7". I was on my mom's side. They were all Indiana farm boys, basketball players. He says, well, I can't tell you everything because I had to sign that, the Security Act. But you deserve to know who your father was. So he stayed up all night, and his wife says, Tappy Topochik, you're not supposed to talk about those things. He said, look at him. This could be our son. He wants to know who his father was. She said, okay. So she sat down and shared with us. Your father was a wonderful friend. He gave us a truck. We drove out here to Illinois and bought pasture land. We wanted to raise horses. So Tappy was your father's good luck charm. So we didn't know that the interstate highway was going to cross right in the middle of our pasture land. Everybody thought we were crazy for moving out here. So now he owns every building, every business in Mount Vernon, Illinois. He got to name the city. And he says, are you a drinking man? I went, well, no, little. He says, come on. So we get in the car and we drove. He's got a big roll of keys to every business in Mount Vernon. And he opens up the liquor, warehouse. He says, take whatever you want. And he's, World War II gung-ho kind of guy. And I said, I get a VSOP, He said, good call. We'll drink mine. You just keep that. So all night he told me stories about my father and stuff I'd never heard. And he says, let's call your mom. Where is she? I said, Florida. So I call her. She says, where are you? And I said, I'm in Mount Vernon, Illinois at Tappy Topochik's house. She said, he's got a big mouth. Don't listen to him. And Tappy doesn't hear her. He says, let me talk to her. He goes, hi, Winifred. How you? And she interrupts him and dresses him down seriously. Loses color in his face. He says, okay. He hangs up the phone. That was it. And so I drove the car the next day. He says, I go to church every morning because I was in the Pacific during World War II. We were torpedoed. The ship was going down. People were dying. And I told God, I said, look, if I get out of this, I'm going to go to church every day for the rest of my life. Okay, that's the deal. And I could see like there were crucifixes in every room. But it wasn't like a Bible thumper. He was just a regular, he was a baker. So he comes back the next morning and fixes me breakfast. And he sends me off. And I was a different person. It was like, wow. So I'm driving this Bronco and watching the sunrise. And it's this transformational event. And I get it to Manhattan, and we're at Sardi's and with Brenda Vaccaro and her boyfriend. And they said, oh, look, we don't want the car now in Manhattan because we don't have any place to put it. So where are you? I said, well, I'm going to stay out with my old friend Charlie, the saxophone player with Hall & Oates. He's out in Long Island. And, they said, take the car, and then we'll call you if we need it. I said, well, that's too far. It's going to be like 2-3 hours for me to get into Manhattan. I said, oh. I said, look, you're stuck with the car, okay? I'm out of here. So I, said goodbye to Charlie and his wife, and I flew back down to Florida. And then I get a call that says, you got a new job in L.A., film, dialogue replacement stuff, technical. So I come back out to L.A., and I'm not sure I want to do that. I don't want to go back into film business. And that's when I come over to Cathy's shop, and she's got this little shop, and her father's here, and it's just sort of like quaint. And so I tell these stories about driving the Bronco across the country. And she said, you mean the Bronco that's parked out back behind the store? I went, what? And I went out, and sure enough, it was the same car. And she said, yeah, Guy, Brenda's boyfriend, just opened up a handmade dress shop for, the very well-to-do women in the neighborhood. It's a very high-end neighborhood. And I went out and I looked, and it was the car. And I was speechless.
So he drove it back?
No, he didn't. They hired somebody. They
They
don't. Yeah.
But so hired somebody, but his shop was in the same neighborhood as Cathy's store.
2 doors down.
2 doors
Yeah.
down.
Same property.
Okay. So that was an easy one. It meant that you had to stay around Cathy sometime.
Right. So when I come back in, I'm speechless for the first time in my life. And she said, well, it looks like you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. And you said that, Cathy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like you. So you wanted him there, I would also guess.
Yeah, no.
No. She was just being objective about what the coincidence meant. Okay, that's good.
Long life in store for you.
Yeah, Chinese fortune cookie. I actually got that one. Long life in store for you.
Well, that brings us full circle to Cathy's store, which then got us out to Bali and the drummers, and Bruce Springsteen's denim jacket that got this thing rolling. But even before that, the widow and the orphan got you walking into the Burbank studios, where you happened to run into the boss, to Bruce Springsteen, that allowed this whole thing to start going. And there's a lot of little funny details in this, but what I extract is the skeleton part of that, where there are several transformative coincidences that got you to where you are now. Now we're getting maybe about 15 or 20 minutes left in this, and I want to make sure that we get to synchronicity and drumming, because that is so important for us to be able to hear. That's a big reason why you're here. By the way, I was in the same movie that you were. What is Synchronicity? I was interviewed in that thing too.
Yeah.
So that's where
There's a story about that movie that's synchronistic.
I think you told me, but we can. It came out around the same time as something else did.
Yeah.
But let's leave that, because and we can come back to that if we need to. What you probably have had lots of coincidences in your life, but let's go to how you help people get in the flow with hitting the right rhythm that gets them where things start happening smoothly.
Yeah. Now, rhythm has an effect on our psychology and our physiology. And I've always been a student of how rhythm affects people. And as a drummer, I sit back in the clubs and watch people dance or not dance. And so tempo is really important. So when I left the film business, I also left my psychotherapist, who Laura Marr was paying for. Jungian therapist, very good, but it wasn't hitting my issues. I wasn't getting any resolution. I got a vocabulary, which was very useful. And one day the therapist says, well, we're not going to meet for a while because I'm going to the Reggae Sunsplash in Jamaica. I said, okay, that's it. That's the last I'm going to see of you, because I should be in the Reggae Sunsplash in Jamaica. I should be playing. So I realized that I'm just got to do this on my own. There was no approved psychotherapeutic process that I felt comfortable with that was resolving anything for me. I was getting a good vocabulary, a good education. That's when I realized that the drum was something that they did not understand. None of the therapists that I was seeing were drummers. This was in 1983. So that's when I started to say, there's something about the drum that's connecting us to our good instincts and opportunities. And it has to do with alignment of ourselves with universal energies that have always existed, that have no value judgment, no right or wrong.
Now let's just, as I go with your drumming, because I want to talk with your drumming as best as I can.
Sure.
With the drumming, because I really like hearing it. I like the rhythms that you're getting going. And what we're trying to say is the drum beat, when done right, helps us align with the energy that's there.
Yeah. Always been there. And like with the Grateful Dead, they start playing and it's as if they've been playing. And that phenomenon was the style of music that I could relate to. Plus,
I was always amazed how Jerry Garcia just kept having the same kind of something, even with each song had something the same in it.
yeah, it's all the same. I heard them a lot, and I played
bet you
with
did.
So what I was being drawn to was to codify for our cultural mix this ability to use rhythm to connect to the more profound powers that are so deep in our life experience that we don't even know they exist. You go to other cultures, yes, they know right away. They knew in Bali that I was a drummer like less than a minute. So, and the rhythm that I was playing in Bali was a Crusader rhythm. It's also Wawanko in Cuba, the sacred rumba rhythms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got this academic experience as a drummer, but there was this other level that I entrained psychologically and psychically entrained in order to feel connected to the universe in a way where the universe recognizes and respects what I'm doing. And it comes forward in a strange way and says, oh, what can I do for you? And then you create a conversation with the universe that says, this is what I need. This is what I want. But there's no anxiety connected to it. Most people do the creative affirmations without the drum, but they generate anxiety, first of all, because they speed up. So the first thing I started to teach was don't speed up. Just stay relaxed, which I had to learn how to do that as a blues drummer, as a rhythm and blues drummer. Otis Redding, all those people in Georgia, they knew how to stay in the pocket, in the groove. And there was really no place else in the country where you could experience that. So I was immersed in that. Southern rock was being born, and it was gospel truth for me. So, and that's why I have a tambourine on my foot. You can sort of see that. And I went back and I dredged up these grooves without any show business. Simple. Because I wanted people to be able to hit these grooves themselves, by themselves, with their friends. I don't care if you buy my records or not. This is more important. So this rhythm is the same heartbeat rhythm as a human. This is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So as I started to show people these rhythms, it was with the intention, first of all, of just to get you down off your anxiety level, because everybody is in LA, And I said, this is too easy. People were like, getting it, but I said, it's too easy. So I took it on the road, and I wrote some books, Let the Goddess Dance, Drumming the Spirit to Life, and I got up my tour together because I knew how to do that. I went to Illinois, I went to Kansas, I went to Florida. I drummed with 1,000 Dominican nuns in Michigan at the mother house of the Dominican Order. And I drummed in a missile silo under the ground in Topeka, Kansas with 40, and every month people, please come back, because this was before drumming groups were happening. So I knew I was way ahead of the curve. And I treated it like, okay, whoever books me first, that's where I go. It's like the old days in the pop music. It's like if you have a hit in Des Moines, Iowa, that's where you go. You start your tour there. So it was a mystery to me how the universe was connecting me to where I needed to be, where people needed me. Not me, but the process. So, and then the company, Remo, they came in and they wanted me to, promote their fiberglass djembes. And I said, no, I don't, those drums suck. Sorry. I said, no. So I realized I was like putting myself outside the marketplace by insisting on doing these drums. These drums are blessed. They're from our friends in Ghana. They carved my HelmTone logo on the drums. They're totally believers in what we're doing because it relates to their culture. And I don't have to pretend to be African. It's just I'm who I am. So people were coming back to me, giving me feedbacks like, after we drummed, I got what I needed. And it was various things like a new mate, a new car, new house, new job. And these are specific. I said, get specific. You want the universe to help you out? Get specific. So a psychotherapist started sending their patients to us. And the first time I walked in this room, I said, this is a great drum room because it's like a recording studio drum booth. The floor's hollow, about 2 feet. So it's very conducive to like this deep resonant sensation. So the psychotherapist sent several patients in. And one of them, pretty woman, but big, and we talked, and she's got a drum and I've got a drum. And she's been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. She hasn't been out of her apartment in 7 years, had no social life. We're talking, and I went, okay, here it is. You want to say it with me? I am beautiful. And she got all red, I am beautiful. And I'm keeping the groove way back in the pocket. Am beautiful. I learned that from Otis Redding, I am beautiful. Yeah. So we drummed and I slowed it down. Am beautiful, which is unheard of in a drumming group, right? I am beautiful. And she stayed with it. She was eager and willing. Am beautiful. And then one more. I am beautiful. Now she's in a trance and she's soaking in this affirmation. She says, well, it kind of feels like it's stuck here, and it's close. I went, well, let's talk some more. So the more she talked, I went, oh, okay. We're going to, upgrade it. I am desirable. And she just got red, just could not say that. I said, it's just words. It's just a drum. What have you got to lose? Okay, so she did. I am desirable. And then we slowed it down, right? All the way down. I am desirable. And this takes 20 minutes sometimes. Depends. I am desirable. I am desirable. So that goes deep into the limbic system and it becomes part of the belief system because rhythm is how our belief system usually gets created. That's the theory.
That's so important. As I was going along with you and getting deep in the groove, which of course I love saying groovy from the 70s, but I didn't know what really being in the groove was. Yeah, grooving. We hear that grooving on a Sunday afternoon. You hear that sound, but you just took us into the groove. And as you slowed it down, you pulled us deeper into the groove, down into the sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. That's feeling way down in there. And there's something, we don't know what you said, limbic, something other. I can think you're probably right. It bypasses the cortex and gets down into someplace inside of you. So the words get carried along into the groove. And that groove is where the transformation takes place, deep down in there. And then you come out of the groove, that trance, and then you're something different.
Yeah. So this woman, Teresa, she emails me the next day. She says, if I had not been grounded and pumped up all at the same time from the drumming session, I would not have said yes to my former boyfriend from the 7th grade. She's in her 30s. who called me out of the blue and asked me to go out. And I said yes. And she ended the email by saying, apparently, I'm fine just the way I am.
Wow.
So we were happy. Hooray. A few months pass. They're getting married. We go to the wedding. It's a big country club in the valley. And she's at the reception. She got a big white dress on. She's a beautiful, big woman. And her court is around her. And the band is in their blue tuxes. And her husband's on his knees. You are so beautiful. And she sees us. She sees us at the next table. And she goes, I am desirable. Works for me. So we drummed at their house. We cleared out the energy. They've got a few kids. They're still together.
Well, I'm going to stay with not the follow-up, because sometimes coincidences don't lead to long-term relationships, but they bring people together for a while. Sometimes it does go, but the idea that you could get her into the groove and she would go into the groove and she accepted going into the groove and was there in the groove and could be desirable, could be beautiful. Somehow that also gets the 7th grade boyfriend to call her the next day. Then we're talking magic here. Yeah. We're talking what I'm looking for, what I try to pick up as I try to understand the variables that increase the likelihood of this sort of thing happening. And you are giving me another look at how that might happen.
So the two rhythms that I use to show people how to manifest, we don't call it conjuring anymore. That was a New Orleans term, and it's become pejorative.
It's a little bit overdone. Yeah.
Manifesting, New Age, we're manifesting, and you start to realize that time is a very flexible commodity. And one psychotherapist, she's a PhD in brain research at Tulane, Dr. Zadina. She was freeze up in the middle of a lecture, holding the brain, because she was dealing with delayed stress from Katrina and other stuff. So we talked about her issues and her life, and we finally came up with, I am not a victim, okay? And we just slowed that down, not a victim. Then you have 5-10 minutes, I am not a victim. Really slow, it goes in deep. I am not a victim. Now, as she was repeating this and hitting a drum with me, you don't have to have musical knowledge to do this. I realized that we were outside the linear time, cause and effect, because rhythm does that. When people play music or play the drum, time ceases to exist. I ask people, how long have we been drumming? They go, I don't know. Because it's not important. So that was a concept that I could work with. I said, okay, we can go rhythmically into the past and change the past. I have never been a victim, which would fly in the face of any rational human being. Have never been a victim. But the malleability, the neuroplasticity of how the brain works is it will take a rhythmic affirmation. If you insist, it'll go into the belief system on a deep level and it'll stay there. And we've done it for so long now, we've had a lot of anecdotal reports back saying, yes, it's still there. I have never been a victim. That's up on YouTube. And another one is like for anger, right? And now I am angry, right? I am angry. You slow this down. I am angry. And you come and you're hitting the drum. I am angry. And when you come all the way down, it's ludicrous. I am angry. angry. And so when Dr. Zadina understood that one, she said, you're bypassing the amygdala. You're rewiring how people get angry. So all of these possibilities started, coming forward. So I took it on the road, LA, too easy. I got to go out to the hinterlands and see if this really is valid. So I'm in Florida, and a friend of mine, I'm staying at his little compound, and I needed to have a vehicle. I didn't have a vehicle down there. I wasn't a rock star, so I couldn't just rent a car. So a woman who was coming to the groups, tried to help me find a van because I was putting a lot of drums in my mother's garage and down in Florida, and it just was getting too busy. So out of the blue, this woman says her neighbor, after we'd been looking for vans, said, we just got new SUVs and we've got this great, Dodge Caravan, and it's in great shape. It's a few years older, but we just want to give it up to Spirit. If somebody needs a car, let them have it. And she said, I do know actually somebody who does need a car, and it would be perfect. They gave me the pink slip to this beautiful Dodge Caravan for free. They said, it's a good Florida van, which I didn't realize meant it has no heater. And of course I drove it up through Michigan and froze my head off, but I drove this van back to my friend's compound, and Jim sees me pulling into the parking lot, and he goes, did you drum on that? I said, well, yeah. He goes, you always do that. You drum on it and then it happens.
And that's where we're going to stop here, buddy, because I'd like to hear more, but we've got a time limit that this conjuring or manifesting, I call it now a term thought forms, putting thought forms out there. And I think that's more accurate because you think it and then let it go. And the drumming lets you let it go. You just have it in you, and then you send it out there, and you don't even know you sent it. You remember you sent it out there. It's just out there. And somehow then it comes back. I've done that with trying to help create a coincidence project. Just thinking about it and hoping it may, but I thought about that more, but still I let a lot of it go. This letting go thing is really an important part of it. And I think the drumming looks like it helps you get into it deeply to energize it. And then you let it go, and then it happens. It's a wonderful part of this whole thing, buddy. Thanks.
You're welcome. That's slowing down the tempo that most people don't consider important. Is it letting go?
Is the letting go.
As you slow down.
What I'm trying to learn here from you is that it also has to do with my talking. That I tend to speed up when I'm talking. And you're telling me quite clearly that when you speed it up, Dr. Coincidence, you are beginning to let people chase people away because you're getting anxious. So when you've got something important to say, that's the time to slow it down.
That's
and
right.
Get into not just the groove, but deep into the groove. And then you're in the groove and you're really grooving. And then they come in there with you and they can hear you and be relaxed in that groove with you.
Yeah, it's inviting. You're inviting people.
You're inviting.
And I learned that from B.B. King. It's like you listen to his solos, just a few notes. He's never busy.
He's just sitting there and just strumming on that thing and doing that thing. And that voice comes in and out and you're just with him. So, buddy, you're my buddy now.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Good luck with all of this.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Cathy. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you soon.
This psychosphere is our mental atmosphere, like a hologram of cosmic consciousness.